But nevertheless, in that culture, you saw two strangers, you invited them in. And when you invited them in, you became responsible for their safety, their comfort, and their well-being. You would even risk your life or your family's life to protect the people who you invited into your house. That has not changed in much of the world today. It's that way in Afghanistan right now. We think about all the bad guys in Afghanistan, but they're a minority. There's a bunch of good guys there. People who, if you were just stumbling through their little village, they take you in, they take care of you, they protect you from bandits. When I was in Turkey, now Turkey is a Muslim country. When I was in Turkey, they told me, because we always think poorly of Muslims, they told me you could live and travel through all of Turkey and never spend a dime. They said in every village, a house is set up for strangers. So if a stranger comes into town, we give them a room to stay in, and people in the community will take turns feeding them until they move on to the next community. It's an amazing thing. So I'm thinking Lot was from that tradition. He saw two men come into town, said, "Guys, come in." The guy said no, and he fought with them. He would give them no peace until they agreed to take shelter under his roof. Verse 4. Before they'd gone to bed, all of the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called out to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we might have sex with them." That's how the NIV puts it. The older versions of the Bible are a little more respectful in talking about sexual matters. Bring them out that we might know them. And then you look at every commentary and they say sexually. And so the King James and some of the older versions don't put it right in your face. Modern English, they put it right in your face. They wanted to have these guys. Verse 9. They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out, pulled Lot back into the house, and shut the door. Then they struck the men with blindness so that they could not find the door. Struck them with blindness. You know what? If I was blind, I could find a door. So obviously these angels, these divine representatives, whatever they were, did something so that these guys were incapable of breaking into Lot's house. Lot was trying to protect them. They ended up protecting Lot because they were going to destroy the family, because they were protecting, according to the great traditions of hospitality, these two strangers who came into town. But Sodom was so messed up. Not only did they not offer hospitality, they wanted to gang rape those who visited the city. That's how messed up Sodom was. They struck the men with blindness so that they could not find the door. Verse 12. The two men said to Lot, "We are going to destroy this place." The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. Do you remember the story of Noah several weeks ago, maybe months ago? We talked about when God flooded the earth, it's not that God's mean, it's actually that he's gracious, because he waited so long. He waited till everybody was so evil, except for one man. There were 10 people on the planet. He wouldn't have destroyed the planet if there were 10 good people, but there weren't. I remember in the previous chapter, you can go home and read it, Abraham asked God, if there's 50 people in Sodom who are good, would you destroy the city? And God said no. Well, what about 40? God said no. What about 30? God said no. What about 20? God said no. If there are 10 good people there, would you destroy it? God said no. There was only one good guy left. The rest were a bunch of evil, bad guys. And so God says, I'm going to destroy this place. You have to understand, this is an exaggeration. It's not like they were sort of bad and there was 20% of them who were still good. This place had gotten so evil that there was nothing to do with it but destroy it. And God sent 2 divine messengers to snatch Lot out before he destroyed it. Verse 24, then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, including all those living in the cities and also the vegetation in the land. To this very day, that is amongst the most desolate place on the planet. There's a body of water there called the Dead Sea. Even the lake there is no good. I don't know what it was like before then, but that's the area today in southern Israel and Jordan known as the Dead Sea. It's just desolate dirt. Nothing good there. but they have discovered large amounts of sulfur there. And the scripture says God rained down sulfur, brimstone as it were, brimstone, sulfur. So the biblical story pans out when scientists go and check out the geology of the area. Okay, so here's some things we need to know about the story and about this topic in general. I specifically emphasized the fact, and it was part of the story anyway, that they wanted to gang rape these guys. Because today, when people talk about what does the Bible teach about homosexuality, some in the gay lobby would say the Bible's against gang rape for sure, but it's not against homosexuality. The story of Sodom has nothing to do with homosexuality, has just something to do with gang rape. There is some legitimacy to half of that conversation until you get to the New Testament. The book of Jude comments on one of the problems of Sodom. Let me read it to you. Jude chapter 1 verse 7 says this: Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding towns gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion. They serve as an example of those who suffer the punishment of eternal fire. We're going to talk in a few minutes about other types of sexual immorality, and you're going to find out there's plenty of sin to go around. Sodom had all sorts of problems. They were wicked, they were violent, they were sexually immoral. I'm sure anything we could think of bad, they probably did it in that city. But Jude emphasizes their sexual immorality as the main problem with Sodom, Gomorrah, and the cities of the plain. See, God requires sexual purity out of everybody. Listen to what Hebrews says, Hebrews 13. Marriage should be honored by everyone, by all, and the marriage bed kept pure. For God will judge the adulterer and the sexually immoral. Okay, so right now in the world today, we'll say we've got the homosexual lobby over here, wanting to get gay marriage approved and saying it's just an alternate lifestyle, there's nothing wrong with it. And over here, let's go to the far right, that's the left. Here's the far right that says, that's the worst sin on the planet, you guys are a bunch of perverts and you shouldn't even live. Most Americans are over here going, you guys are nuts. And they're like this, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to believe anymore. Well, I can tell you, they're both nuts. There's plenty of sin to go around. This group over here, they're pointing their fingers at homosexuals while they're doing what? Committing adultery, gossiping, lying, slander, embezzlement. Some of the most right-wing pastors on the planet end up in prison for prostitution, drug charges, adultery. These guys are over here saying, you're a bunch of haters. You hate people. Well, yeah, they do. They're right. And they're over here hating people who hate them. I'm just trying to tell you there's plenty of sin to go around. But I don't want to make the mistake of saying, because this group is being mistreated, that therefore their sin is okay. And because this group mistreats this group, that their sin's okay. It's not. Now, the other group that was here confused, I'm representing something different now. The truth is in the middle. We all sin and fall short of God's glory. Every one of us. And we got no business pointing fingers at somebody else saying they're worse than we are. We're all in the same boat together. We cannot make the mistake, though, of saying this is okay because it's offensive to say it's not. And we cannot say that they're okay because they're not either. We have to find the biblical truth, which in my opinion is speaking the truth in love. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So what is sin, Steve? Well, that's where the Bible comes in. The Bible tells me what's right and wrong. I don't make it up. If the Bible said eating eggs on Thursday was wrong, I'd tell you it was a sin. So, but Steve, that doesn't make any sense. I'd say, you're right, it doesn't make any sense, but that, God says it, it's okay. Well, God's rules aren't that silly. God's rules are for our benefit and our well-being. But just because we don't get something doesn't mean we get to change it and say it's not true anymore.